L'chaim, to celebrating Passover and Easter together. Christ is risen, to our shared joy and friendship. The unity of our traditions makes this meal so special. Indeed, let's eat and enjoy.
This is best. More. Good morning, America. How are you? I am Rabbi Dave, and I am proud to say that I did not attend a No Kings protest yesterday.
I am Friar Rod, and I did not attend a No Kings protest either. I made fun of some people that were there.
I made fun of a lot of people. Just see the meme that's making the rounds is the nose-ringed, purple-haired gal that's complaining. If MAGA is the majority, why are there no counter protests for No Kings? That's her comment. Because there's no counter protest saying, yes, we want a king. Clearly, that's what they've come up with.
I don't know. I found it hilarious, the whole crowd in London protesting No Kings.
Right. No sense of irony there, was there?
Not at all.
Nothing. That's yeah, the whole thing is just, and of course, there's two sources of news coverage of the No Kings rallies, depending on which you could watch like I was watching the local news this morning, and of course, they're showing us the normal, doing the air quote thing here, people who are just there to protest against the war and against Trump's anti-LGBT policies, which I'm not sure which are, but...
No, I don't know what those are either.
And then there's the real media, the interwebs, where you find out what really went on with the dancing frogs and the Doge Walker and that kind of stuff. So you can decide which one you want to watch. And you can decide for yourself which one is the actual protest. The one you're getting on your local news or the one you're seeing on the internet. Because I'm pretty sure I know which one it is.
Yeah, it's the live on the street.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. But onward and upward, because if we keep talking about these No Kings protests, we're not going to talk about anything else for the next 2 years. Probably beyond that, because assuming a Republican wins the next election, then we'll do it all again.
What's funny, Dave, is that as soon as a Democrat gets into office, they're going to mandate a bunch of crap too.
Right.
And they're going to be acting just like they were in the pandemic.
Right. But that's okay, because no kings.
It's their king.
Right. It's what I've always said. It's not what is done. It's who does it. That's what matters. Speaking of who's doing things, Rod and I had an interesting conversation earlier in the week, which began with a text, as they so often do. The text read, are you ready for this? Everybody sitting down?
I'm sitting down.
What do you know about the Orthodox Church?
Yeah.
And I immediately replied, well, would that be Greek or Russian? Because in either case, it's the same. Very little about the Orthodox Church. Why was my next question. Why do you want to know about the Orthodox Church? And the answer was...
Well, I'm investigating possibly converting to Orthodoxy. I've been reading about the Catholic Church for well over a decade, and even attended their RCIA, which is their Rite for Christian Initiation, whatever it is called, to find out more about it. And so I like the liturgical aspect of the church, and then I didn't know anything about Orthodoxy, so I am in the process of investigating and reading books, and which is what I do. Read books about it. Watch it on YouTube.
let's start there.
Sure.
Why you didn't grow up Catholic? Likewise, I didn't grow up Jewish. You didn't grow up that way. What was it? What is it that's pulling you in that direction?
So over the course of my evangelical years, I had been on worship team for like 25 years. And for me, the communal service where we're all worshiping together was the aspect that I liked the most. The teaching was okay. We had some good teachers. We had some not so good teachers, and it was okay. But I wasn't there to sit and listen to somebody, because I could do that on the radio. I could listen to teachers all day. It was the communal part where you're all taking part in the same service that I liked the most. And then one day, we were, as the group of worship team, we did a lot of extracurricular things at the church. So we decided to have this prayer group, and we prayed and whatnot, and then we had communion. We bought the matzah crackers basically and broke it up and had little grape juice cups and Dixie cups of grape juice, and then we passed that around. Well, one day that we were doing that, I startled somebody, knocked all the crackers on the floor, and I'm thinking, you know what? There's got to be more to this than the symbolism. I always felt that communion was very should be revered in a way, and so that's what led me to look to the Catholic Church at first, because I wanted to understand what their thoughts were on communion and whatnot. And
was what you discovered about the Catholic Church, and I don't really want to go into deep stuff, but clearly that was not necessarily what you were looking for, because now you're looking towards the Orthodox Church. What was it that you found that was interesting, but not quite what you were looking for?
Well, I liked the aspect of the Mass, the church service, right? Was you're there to participate in it. It was the whole focal point was the communion of it. And so you're singing, you're preparing your heart, your mind to take part with heaven, right? Because that's their thought is you're doing this, and all of heaven is doing that as well. Plus there's the aspect of the communion of saints, that there's a great body of witnesses up there that are watching us, that have access directly to the throne because they're there.
So you have an audience.
We have an audience, yeah. Leave it to me to want an audience. But it was that there were things that I just couldn't get over that the Catholic faith believes. More power to you if you're Catholic. I'm not going to knock it. I'm not going to go into that much detail here, but things that I found in the Orthodoxy that actually align better with me, musically speaking. I have always loved a cappella music. I've been in a number of a cappella groups. Singing barbershop right now.
Right. For those of you that don't know, the Orthodox Church does not allow the use of musical instruments. No,
it's all chanting and it's all a cappella, and listening to the services. And now I'm even listening to, I have a Spotify Orthodox channel that I listen to for like falling asleep. It's this chants. It's just beautiful music that I'm falling in love with. And so that's an aspect of it. Another aspect is they consider their services kind of a treat to all five senses. It's not just you're listening in your ears. It's not that you're singing with your mouth. It's the incense, and it's everything else a part of that. So,
which you're not getting on Spotify, right?
I'm not getting on Spotify.
They haven't figured out a way to get sense through the.
Someday they will.
Through Spotify.
Yeah.
We can only hope.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, that'll be nice if they ever do. If they ever get it interconnected to your house, then they could do it that way, I guess. I'm fascinated by this because as someone who's gone through a conversion myself, obviously I didn't grow up Jewish. And having dealt with people, because in Judaism, of course, conversion is highly discouraged. I'm not sure what the Orthodox position on that, or even, I know at least 4 people that have converted to Catholicism. I know a couple people. Yeah, it's a long process, but they're open to it. They have a process for it. I know a few people that have converted to the LDS Church. But in almost every case, it's not a religious spiritual choice. It's I'm marrying somebody who wants to get married in that church kind of thing. And in Judaism, we really discourage that. If you go to a rabbi and say, I want to convert to Judaism, the rabbi is going to look at you and say, no, you don't. And send you on your way. He's not even going to talk to you. And there's a reason for that. And that process, when you finally get into that process, is equally as long. And it has the same, I don't want to call them barriers, but the same roadblocks that you're running into, which is you've spent your whole life believing something, or at least saying that you believe something. And now you're in a position where, we don't believe that. How do you get over that barrier? How do you say, well, I didn't really believe it, or I don't believe it anymore, or my opinion has evolved? How do I unbelieve something that I have believed in, my entire life? How do you get past that? And I'm wondering if you're seeing that, is that part of what you ran into with with Catholicism? Because there are some, let's just call them fundamental differences between Protestantism and Catholicism. Mm-hmm. And to say that those differences aren't important would be to ignore, 2,000 years of war over those very differences. Yeah. How do you get past that?
I think for me, it's a part of growing and understanding. And the more I learn and the more I think through the early faith, and you have to go back to the early fathers. That's one of the things that led me to studying Catholicism, was that I wanted to know what the early fathers thought, and what did the early church look like, because it doesn't look like the evangelical church is today at all. You get a lot today, not to knock evangelicalism, but there's a lot of rock band type of services where we were up on a stage, but we tried to not make it look like it was a concert. It was everyone's trying to participate, but it sort of has that feel. And I've seen some services online that are very much like, the worship team is a rock star, and the pastor is the lead guy of the service, and he's
have you seen the one where he's flying in on the wires?
Yeah. So to me, it's very, the focus feels different in the liturgical churches. So it to me, it was, Christ is the focus.
That's where I want to focus for just a moment.
Sure.
What do you think is different in a liturgical service versus what we're told? I can say this, we've been told, because I've been told this idea that, the Spirit just takes hold and it just goes wherever it wants to go. Why does that feel so odd to you? There are people who love that, who think that that's the thing. And then there are people like me, possibly you, who are just repelled by that. Yeah. That whole idea just seems counterintuitive to me. It seems presumptuous to me, and quite frankly, I'm going to say this, it's not biblical. Yeah. Why am I the only one that feels that way, and now you, versus where the rest of this is going?
Well, and I do think the Spirit can lead us. It's that still small voice. It can lead us, but it's not, I don't know that it's talking to us directly and, I've got this and I've got to go say this to these people over here and all that. I think it's more of a nudging thing.
So you don't think God comes down and says, hey, get up and interrupt this service and say this thing. And, by the way, do it in a completely unintelligible, unrecognizable way that nobody actually understands what you're saying.
In the evangelical church that I was in, they took great pains to never hand the mic to somebody that they didn't already plan to hand it to.
Right.
Because people would go off rails. Yes. And then you're fighting to get the mic back.
And you're fighting to get control of the service back, because the purpose of the service is the worship, and off you go. I find that interesting, because the Torah cycle right now. It doesn't seem like it should be, but it is. The Torah cycle right now is the book of Leviticus, Vayikra, and he called, which often gets, I don't know, in my experience growing up in the Christian church, the book of Vayikra, the book of Leviticus we always recognized it was there, but I can count on one hand the number of sermons I heard preached from Leviticus, not given by myself. Does that make sense? It gets shoveled to the back because it's a book that's confusing. It's a book that, seems weird, but it does get quoted because there's a couple of verses in there that fit, for better phraseology, a hardline conservative theology, about how lifestyle should be lived and stuff. And yet, while someone will be quick to quote something that's, anti-gay in the book of Leviticus, they'll completely ignore the part about eating shrimp, right? They'll just, okay, yeah. Which is part of the problem with this book. The book of Leviticus is really, when I dove into the book of Leviticus, I had been flirting, as you, with a conversion. I knew I was not where I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Now, the Rebbe will tell you that every Jew has a spark that cannot be extinguished deep down wherever. And that spark exists in every Jew, whether they are Jewish yet or not. That's what the Rebbe taught. So I'm having this issue with, do I believe this stuff? It doesn't work for me. It just doesn't. It's not doing what faith is supposed to do, which is to draw you closer to God, right? And so I began looking at Judaism, and what I quickly found was that this made more sense to me.
Yeah.
But I wasn't ready to pull the trigger. And then I got asked to lead a book study at a Bible study, and they said, well, you're an Old Testament kind of guy. Is there an Old Testament book that people might enjoy? I said, no, there's probably several, but there's one that they need more than they'll enjoy. And we did a in-depth college level study of the book of Leviticus. And when we closed that class, that's when I went to the rabbi and said, I'm ready to convert. And by that point, because the tradition is you have to go 3 times. That time, it was the 3rd time. And then we began the conversation. Now, the book of Leviticus is more about how God is supposed to be worshipped, which if you read it carefully, you will find there's very little similarity between what is and what was. And the argument, of course, comes, well, now we have the Spirit, the indwelling of the Holy Spirit, and we're no longer subject to the law. But that's not what I read, except if you really squint hard and use a strobe light, you might get that out of Paul, but you certainly did not get that out of Jesus. Which is the point I made to my rabbi, which was, look, this is the struggle point. How do I get past what I have been taught to believe and consequently has become, I don't want to say embedded, but it's how you start to believe things not because you've worked them out in your own mind, but because they've been so pounded into you for so long, ingrained, that how do you get around that? How do you convince people that there is no right to a trial by a jury of your peers? Not in the American system. That's not in the Constitution. But people say it. It is in the English Constitution, but not ours. How do you get around those things? How do you get people to understand How do you yourself move beyond that? And that's the hard point. And I still remember the day that I realized it, Rod, which was the day that we were having that conversation, which was, look, I have no problem with the historical existence of Jesus. I accepted it. It's a historical reality. It's even if you wanted to argue that it didn't really happen, the fact is that this history has been so ingrained in humanity that for all practical purposes, it happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't get around it.
You can't get around that. And what I said to him was, my deal is when I read the Gospels, I'm not reading about what I'm seeing in my own denomination. I'm reading about a Jewish rabbi telling people to do Jewish things, even people who aren't Jews. He's telling them this is the way. In fact, he says to one of them, "You're not far from the kingdom of God." One who is actually following the law in detail. He doesn't say that to people who are off in the Never Never Land. He says that to people who are actually following Torah. So there must be something to that. Now, we can sit here and debate Paul till we're blue in the face, but I'm not going to go in that direction. And what I said to the rabbi was, that's what I realized. I read Jesus as a Jewish rabbi teaching Jews and others how to live a godly life. And that draws me closer to God. And he looked at me and said, that's what faith is supposed to do. And it's at that moment that we agreed, okay, Dave has now converted. Let's go do the formal process. But it took Rod 20 years.
Yeah.
From start to finish. It's not something that is quick. It's not something that is easy, because you do find yourself, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What if, what if this thing that I've been taught my entire life is not true? Or what if it is true and I'm abandoning it?
Well, and so Dave, converting from evangelicalism, and I was raised Methodist, right, to Orthodoxy is a little easier of a jump than going to Judaism.
Yeah, you're not going to have the Hatafadam Brit done to you in a urologist's office. That was an experience. But it does contain the same emotional content, I would think, because you are suddenly looking at things differently, and things that you have believed. Now you're being told, no, we don't believe that.
Yeah.
And I haven't gone deep into Orthodox faith, but there are some things, even in Catholicism, compared to Protestantism, that are going to cause, well, they have caused friction through the years. And whether you're talking about, not pointing any fingers and naming any names here, but my own wife has issues with some of the things that someone close to her is converting to Catholicism. And she has issues with, I don't see how she can possibly believe that.
Yeah.
Well, but this is what Catholics have believed for 2,000 years. You don't believe that because you weren't raised that way. I have issues with some of the things you believe.
Yeah. Well, it's like the iconography, right? The use of icons and things like that. And the reverence for Mary, which you typically don't find in an evangelical church. We'll sing "Mary, Did You Know," but
right.
It's not,
and we'll talk briefly about her in the nativity stories, but beyond that, there's literally nothing.
Yeah, in the Orthodoxy, they revere Mary, but it's not to the same extent that the Catholics do. It's different.
So where are you at in this conversion process? What do you?
Well, I'm exploring. I'm reading some books. I've got a Orthodox devotional I'm looking through right now. I read kind of someone else's testimony. Some of the early, a group of the early Campus Crusade for Christ pastors that were a part of that whole movement, basically ended up going Orthodox. And I read their story as to what they did and why they did it, and from their studies and all that. So I'm I'm waiting for the Easter season to go. There's some things that I need to understand more about it. Their services, they stand most of the time, which was interesting. And they're quite long, and they fast a lot.
Yes, they do.
Wednesdays and Fridays, they're fasting from meat, oil, and alcohol, and what was that? There's something else. And then, and there's 40 days of fasting, what they do for Easter, which is similar to the Catholics, but it's the same: no meat, no oil, no alcohol. So I'm thinking, what do you eat? What's left?
Well, oddly enough, what's left is matzo, which is what we start next week with Passover.
Well, there you go.
You can only eat matzo for a week, and
So
not my favorite time of year, but Passover is a great holiday, and there's a lot of symbolism and a lot of meaning in it. But food-wise, I like matzo, but it's like anything else. You eat it for a day, and then you go, well, that was great. You eat it for the second day, you go, well, okay.
that ain't manna from heaven.
By the third day, you're looking around going, is there really nothing else? I mean, seriously?
Yeah, so we'll see. I don't know. I'm still looking, Dave.
Yeah. Fortunately, matzo is great in salsa.
Oh, there you go.
It's and salsa's kosher, so it's
Okay.
like, well, you find those ways around things. But let me assure you that matzo pizza is not as good as you'd think it would sound. It's just not. So that crunch is, and because the matzo is unsalted, it's a weird thing. Well, I was fascinated by this conversation because I always am fascinated by these kind of conversations, and the Orthodox Church to me, and we're not even dealing with the Russian versus the Greek.
No.
It's always fascinated me because even if you go to Jerusalem today, there are three Christian denominations. There's the Protestant, which who knows who's representing that, the Roman Catholic, and the Orthodox. And they don't mix well at all. To the point, Rod, where I'm not making this up. Okay? We were talking, I sent you the article about Bethlehem. And the cave where Mary gives birth to Jesus.
Okay.
If you go to Bethlehem today and you take that little tour, they will take you first. Well, in our case, they take us first to the Catholic Church. And there you will see this magnificent, ornate, decorated, incredibly beautiful cave. With this little star thing on it. It will tell you the story and all this other stuff. And then you'll go outside and you'll walk around the corner and you'll go into this other church and while you're down there, you'll notice that there's this heavy oak door that has a lock on it. Okay. And your thought process is, well, they don't want you wandering off to the rest of the cave, right? You go upstairs, you go outside, you go around the corner to the other church, you go down to that church. This church of the Nativity is on the other side of that door, and they have their own cave where Jesus was born. And that's where it starts getting a little, strange. You've got two different Golgothas, you got two different this, two different that, two different this, because one's Orthodox, one's Catholic. And then the Protestants are just like, well, we got our own place over here too. So, and it's such a process. And I guess it's interesting to me because of that experience of having to say, I don't believe this anymore. And then you start wondering, did I ever really believe it? Because the Rebbe says there's that spark inside of you that cannot be extinguished. And when it's time, that spark will ignite. And all of a sudden everything will be clear. And that's been my experience. There are times when I still wonder, though, do I believe that or do I not believe that? I don't know, but Rod's about to find out. Welcome back. I'm Dave.
I am Rod.
And on top of everything else, this has been a great week because
it is the opening season of the
opening day of baseball, opening week of baseball.
Yeah.
And while the Mariners did not have a great opening, it was one of those games that drives you nuts because they had a lead, they gave up the lead, they came from behind, they tied the game. Then they got behind, they started coming back, and then ultimately they just, ran out of time and lost opening night. But they did have a very celebratory opening night, but I think they blew a huge opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So the Seattle Mariners have this tradition at opening game, the opening night, home opening night. They have a child from I don't know if it's not Make-A-Wish, but it's something similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
Cancer Center, because Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center is right there. So they usually have a kid that's had cancer and survived or is, making progress or whatever, come out and run the bases before the game as the first base runner of the year. And this year's kid was somebody who was 11 years old. He had survived cancer, but it was clear that the process had been very painful and very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And as he starts running the bases, he gets to first base and falls down and has a hard time getting up. And
nobody helped him?
Well, so you remember the Olympics when the runner tore his Achilles or whatever near the thing, and the dad came out of the stands and helped him?
Yeah.
Same thing happens here. The dad runs over, helps him up. And I'm thinking to myself, get the whole damn team out there to help him. That would have been... As it was a pretty good, as the Seattle Times put it, there's not a dry eye in the house. Sure. But you want to bring down the house, the whole team gets out there and helps this kid run around the bases. It would have been perfect. But they missed that opportunity. So, and then they lost the game. So, and I think the reason they lost the game is because they didn't go out and help the kid. I mean, if you're the Cleveland Indians / Guardians, aren't you just kind of defeated at that point? You just kind of go, oh, well, we can't top that. So no going back there.
The A's have lost twice now, so they don't have their home game until I think it's next week.
They don't have a home game at all.
Well, technically, yeah.
I read an article this week, though, that the River Cats are getting pissed off because they're tearing up the fields and they're making a move and sending them on the road on these ridiculous 2.5, 3 week road trips. And keep in mind that the River Cats are not the A's farm team.
No.
They're the Giants farm team. And the Giants and the A's don't like each other. So there's a lot of animosity building there.
Yeah.
Which will be an interesting conversation when I get to have that one. I don't know how much I'll get out of it, but we shall try. But for all of that, opening day was pretty good. I did not like the Netflix game. I don't know if you watched it or not.
I did.
So on Wednesday, they have the Major League Baseball opener, a single game, which when I was growing up traditionally was always in Cincinnati. It was always Cincinnati, always played the first game. They usually played at 1 o'clock Pacific time. And then ESPN would have that game and then 2 other games. And it was great. I'd go over and sit at Mike's Roadhouse and watch baseball all afternoon. I usually take the day off, go watch baseball all day. But so now they do one game. And for some ungodly reason, I have no idea why, it's the Giants at home. Okay. But they're playing the Yankees.
Yeah.
This is not a rivalry.
No.
They keep trying to make it a rivalry, but it hasn't been a rivalry since 1962 in the World Series. I mean, it's just not. And, of course, one of the people that they have on the broadcast is Barry Bonds. And the whole broadcast is about basically trying to rehab Barry Bonds into this, the greatest player of all time. And he's not. he's a jerk, and he's kind of, I don't care where you stand on the home run thing, but as far as I'm concerned, he's not the home run king.
Yeah, they would have been better off with Jose Canseco.
They would have been, but at least Jose is entertaining, you know?
Yes.
And he doesn't believe in ancient gravity and those sorts of things. And, you know, from that aspect of it, yeah. But so that was nauseating to me. I mean, it just really was. And there was that. But all that said, I got to give the Giants San Francisco credit because they had the best national anthem ceremony of all of them.
Okay.
Despite the fact that the singer, the person that sang the national anthem, was apparently the guy that played Washington in the Broadway version of Hamilton. Don't have a clue who the guy is, don't know anything about him, but he apparently played Washington in Hamilton.
Okay.
And he flubbed the words. I mean, he bombed it.
It is the hardest song to sing. It really is.
It is a hard song to sing. I'll agree to that, but I don't know if it's the hardest song to sing.
It's because the words just don't seem to flow like it would in a normal song.
Well, he flubbed them. To his credit, he kept it together, made it through. He's a professional, I'll give him that.
Yeah.
But in case you missed it, the Giants had this thing, the smoke flag, and it was awesome. It is I don't know if it's fireworks or if it's smoke rockets. I don't know what it was. I don't know how they did it. But right over the right field wall, they did this thing where it just sort of appeared in the sky. You didn't see any rockets launched or anything like that. Yeah. And it just sort of went poof. And suddenly there's this smoke version of the American flag, which immediately starts moving and dissipating. And it was so cool. Yeah. It was awesome. It was, I will give San Francisco that credit. You know, I hate the Giants, always have, always will, but I will give you credit, San Francisco. You did a really good job on that.
It's a beautiful park, though.
I've been outside and I've never been in.
Okay.
So
it's worth going to a game there, sometime.
It would be if you could afford to go.
Not anymore. Yeah. I can't afford it.
What was the thing I saw the other night? $400 to go to a game for a family of four. $400 in some place like Milwaukee it wasn't Los Angeles where the souvenir beers for opening night were $17.95.
Ugh.
Can you imagine paying $17, $18 for a Budweiser?
No.
I mean, I will occasionally drink a Budweiser. If I'm going to drink a beer, I want a Bud. They're the only ones that I seem to like. They have that dry taste in them, and I kind of like that. But I ain't paying $18 for one.
I'd rather have an iced tea in that mug than a Budweiser.
Yes, but you drink craft beer, so.
I do.
So you're a beer snob. But all I'm saying is, who the hell would pay $18 for a beer at a ball game? It's so unaffordable now, and that's why I don't go to Mariners games. They keep advertising now. We got $12 tickets. You got $12 tickets in the outfield in the very last row of the third deck.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. But then I got to pay $15 to park over here. I got to pay another $16 for the ferry ride to and from, which, by the way, the ferry stopped running at 10 o'clock, which means that if the game isn't over, I have to leave at 9:45 to catch the ferry. Who's in charge of that?
Yeah.
Then I got to buy a ticket, which, okay, $12. Now I'm already up to what? $45, $50 already? Yeah. Before I'm even through the gate. Then I got to buy, a hot dog and some peanuts and all that stuff. I'm not paying all that money. I pay $19. Well, I bought the year package, so I spent $100 to watch the Mariners on MLB TV now, because now they finally realize, hey, these blackout things are stupid, but people are desperate enough that they'll pay us $20 a month to watch their team.
Yeah.
So I did. And then they immediately put the second game on Apple TV and wouldn't show it on MLB.
Oh,
and people up here are pissed. They're like, why did you charge us $100 and then put the game on a station we can't watch? Fortunately, we have a really great radio team, so just listen to it on the radio and watch it later if we need to. But there you go. I did see this week some Japanese baseball.
Did you?
It's not. Look, Rod and I really got into Korean ball during the COVID thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if it was the baseball or if it was the cheerleading. I think it was the cheerleading.
I think it was probably the cheerleading.
Because Korean baseball has...
Not like American cheerleaders, not at all.
No. The Japanese baseball has cheer sections.
Okay.
And when they have cheerleaders, they're not dancers. They are cheerleaders. It reminds me of soccer. It really does.
Mm-hmm.
These unintelligible songs that these soccer fans sing that you have no clue what the hell they're saying.
Ole, ole, ole.
Yeah, that's the only one you understand. I've been a Norwich fan for years. I've never actually heard anybody actually sing intelligibly on the Ball City. It's ridiculous. Anyway, in Japan, I guess they have a guy that's like a drum major, and he goes around to each section and he leads these cheers. Oneda, they call him, I think.
Okay.
And they're like stylized chants that when you translate them are just hysterical. Hit the ball smartly. Charge through the first base. I mean, they're just funny. Anyway, I thought Major League Baseball needs that. We really do. But the problem is, our fans go to be entertained. Their fans go to participate. Their fans believe that they're in the stands because their team needs them. Our fans go to games because they want our money.
Hey, bada, so wing, bada.
Is not the greatest. See, you've watched that movie, I take it.
Yeah.
Is not the greatest thing in that film Sloane, his girlfriend, sitting at the Cubs game, keeping score. Nobody does that anymore. It's fantastic. Welcome back. I'm Dave.
I'm Rod.
So I'm a big First Amendment guy, freedom of speech, all that kind of stuff, as you well know. And a group of journalists, it's the term that's used in the article, not mine, have filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration, alleging efforts to use the Voice of America to promote propaganda and suppress reporting from the White House are being done. So now, let me read you this sentence again, because I'm not sure I read it quite right. Group of journalists has filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration, alleging efforts to use the Voice of America to promote propaganda and suppress reporting from the White House. Okay, show of hands, how many of you know what Voice of America even is?
Isn't that the government radio?
It is, in fact, a government radio station that was set up back in the 40s, possibly the 50s, to broadcast what other people would call American propaganda to communist nations, to tell the communist nations how terrible they were, that your life is terrible. America wants to help you. In other words, to broadcast America, to promote propaganda on the American side of things. Mm-hmm. That's what it's there for. But now these journalists have filed a lawsuit complaining that the lawsuit claims that the administration violated their First Amendment rights asserting that the Trump administration sought to, quote, suppress coverage of events that it wishes had not occurred, and was directing, quote, that its own partisan message be passed off to viewers and listeners as news, unquote. So now I read this and I thought, okay, first off, viewers and listeners to Voice of America? Quick, without looking, how many of you even know where to listen to Voice of America radio or watch Voice of America? You have no idea because, as it turns out, you don't live in a communist country.
Mm-hmm.
So the people who are getting the American broadcast from the Voice of America don't know what they're listening to anyway. Right? I mean, my question is, can the government actually violate the First Amendment for a radio station that actually is? Yes, that's what it does. It broadcasts American propaganda to communist nations.
That's exactly what it does.
I don't like the word propaganda, but you get the idea here, right?
Yeah.
How is it a violation of your First Amendment rights as a journalist because the Voice of America is broadcasting something you don't like? Could you not go to some other radio station and broadcast whatever you wanted?
Yeah.
Can you... Anyway, I just thought it was weird, and perhaps it's not as interesting as I thought it was, but
maybe not. Maybe not. I don't. Yeah. Good morning, Vietnam.
All right, moving on. Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Dave.
I am Friar Rod.
I have not flown on an airplane. Well, okay, I take that back because I did fly on an airplane when I was on the radio station. The guy flew me down to Valencia or something. But as a general rule, I don't fly.
Why is that?
That was a private flight. I just, it's not that I'm afraid of flying. I'm not. It's just that I'm a bigger guy, and airlines have decided to shrink seats to the point where it's just absurd. You can't even... I don't know. I just don't like to fly. I'm not comfortable flying. I'm not comfortable in crowds to begin with. And then you throw in all those issues, and I just don't like to fly. But I am bemused by people who fly.
Okay.
So this past week, there was a TikTok video, because that's how you get everything now. Culture, news, whatever.
Yeah.
A TikTok video of a woman who claims that she is a stewardess? Sorry. Flight attendant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who stays in a hotel on a regular basis. And because she stays in a hotel, well, you need to do some laundry. You need to, do some things. And she was demonstrating how she uses...
Let's step back a second, because they have laundry services, right? They
I know that. You know that. But apparently this broad didn't know that, or doesn't care. Or she's trolling everybody, one of the three, which I lean towards the latter. But in any case, she posted a video about how she washes her undergarments in her hotel room by stuffing them in. She stuffs them into the basket of the coffee maker, runs hot water through it, and presto, her undergarments are now clean as a whistle.
She couldn't just wash them in the shower?
Dude, she either doesn't know, doesn't care, or she's trolling everybody. Now, I'm leaning into the troll, because who the hell would do this? What's the thought paradigm that says, if I stuff my panties into this coffee maker and run hot water through them? I mean, think about what would have to go into that.
Yeah.
I can't wash them in the shower. I can't wash them in the sink. Why can't you? What's the paradigm that leads to this? What's the emergency situation that says this is how I have to do this, right?
I have no idea.
I didn't want to contemplate because I don't even know.
Because you still have to dry them.
She posts this video on TikTok, of course. And within a week, not making this up, another guy posts another video of a Goodwill store that has literally dozens of the same type of coffee maker that she's using, clearly from a hotel, have been donated to Goodwill and are now sitting on the shelf at Goodwill. Implying that, of course, the hotel got rid of them because apparently the stewardesses were washing their underwear in the coffee maker.
Just the thought of that is grossing. Yeah,
I don't know if it's real or not. I know the videos are real. I've seen them. But she had to be trolling people. There's no way you do that. Is there?
I don't know. So now I'm going to have to go sniff the basket. Do I smell some crotch in there?
Well, and aren't you saying to yourself, well, no, I don't want to deal with that. Whoa. Words fail me on this one because is it possible that, I mean, even if you had to do that for whatever reason, and I don't know what the reasoning would be, but even if you got to that point where you did have to do that, why would you video it and put it on TikTok?
That's the troll right there.
Yeah. So if you're on your way to Goodwill to buy a coffee maker, just, spend the extra $10 and go to Target or something, get a new one. Walmart.
Amazon.
Amazon. Meanwhile, if you are flying in New Jersey, I guess. Not sure where this is. People were flying on American Airlines. They bought tickets to fly on American Airlines.
Mm-hmm.
And they were told they had to get on a shuttle for the airlines. When you buy a flight from American Airlines, they put you on a bus on the tarmac at the airport so that you believe they're driving you to the plane.
Mm-hmm.
But then they just keep going. Now, this is an American Airlines subsidiary known as Landline, which apparently is a bus line.
Oh, I'd be so pissed.
From South Bend to Chicago O'Hare. So there's no plane. You go to the airport, you get out on the tarmac, you go through all the airplane stuff, all the TSA stuff, all that crap. They take you out to the tarmac, put you on a bus to take you to O'Hare Airport. Oh my God. There's no plane. People are realizing there's no. It's called Landline. It's called Landline. There is no airplane. And people are shocked by this. They're horrified. Well, but why do they have to go to the airport if
when you go to Greyhound?
Oh my God. American Airlines is famous for their subsidiaries being less than when I was flying in the early days of my Navy. American Airlines had the Pilgrim Airlines up in the Northeast. Oh my God. That was an adventure I should tell you about someday. They'd lose a plane a month. One would crash every month. Nobody'd ever get hurt, but you'd take off from Groton International. And as you take off and you bank out, you look out the window, there's this pile of wreckage on the side of it says Pilgrim Airlines on the side of it. I didn't know this. The first time I flew them, December 15th, 1981. Mm-hmm. Take off from JFK in one of these little puddle jumpers. Yeah. JF freaking K. 747, DC-10, L-1011. Little tiny plane. 747. Yeah. So every time one of the jets would fire up, we'd go backwards about 50 feet. We take off from JFK. We're going to New London, Connecticut, Groton. Maybe a 30-minute flight, maybe. Yeah. We go from JFK to Providence, Rhode Island, to Boston, Massachusetts, back to LaGuardia, and then finally to Groton. Why? We found out later because they lost another plane and they needed to pick up passengers, and so they rerouted this whole thing. Basically turned it into a bus. We'd have been better off, I guess, on a landline. Of course, back then we wouldn't have had a newspaper to go and complain. It is just a bus, even though it says landline on it. I'm not smart enough to...
There's got to be a TikTok of that.
I don't know. It's a New York Post article, so probably. So avoid flying, folks. That's my advice for you today.
I used to love the flight from Modesto to San Francisco. The little hop flight, puddle jumper.
Right, but you're taking off from Modesto, which was cool. But let me tell you, when you're in one of those little one of those little planes on the tarmac at JFK, it's a different experience because you're like, do they even see us down here?
Oh yeah.
That was an adventure. And on that note, I'm Rabbi Dave.
I am Friar Rod.
And this has been a converting episode of
What the Frock?
Sum fructus tecco et urbe furentes et machinem mentem mortalem tollentes mundus iotatur fortuna fugit sed clama simul quid procifit Assume frocum et navem ascendem stultitiam magnem modi simulendem iocamur verimur volvimus canimus Roma flagrantes sua facimus quid hic frocum fitto frates nescimus tamen plaudum catere erige vocem populum supercilium quia nunc fit frocum esserium quid hic frocum Fitto fratres nescimus tamen plaudum catere erige vocem populum supercilium quia nunc fit frocum esserium ita nunc fit frocum esserium ita nunc fit frocum esserium